Hey everyone, and thank you for being here. If you are in the Discord, thank you. If you're watching this on YouTube, I appreciate you for your time, for watching this, and you know, supporting. But I want to start this message with a really simple question today. What's the smartest decision you've ever made? And take a second to think about it. Maybe it was who you married or where you decided to go to school, and maybe it was a financial move, or getting out of debt, or not buying that car you couldn't afford. Maybe it was spiritual, like surrendering your life to Jesus. Now, here's the flip side. What is the dumbest decision you've ever made? And I'm sure that one is a little easier to remember. We've all got stories, both wise and foolish. And the older I get, the more I realize how much I don't know. And I also realize how much I need God's wisdom in my life. So we're going to look at Proverbs 9:10. And if you had a chance to read it this past week or know the verse, we're going to read it right here anyway. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight." So let's break that down, okay? The fear of the Lord. What does that mean? I'm sure everybody kind of thinks the same. But it doesn't mean being scared of God like he's some kind of angry boss just waiting to zap you. It means living with awe and reverence and humble submission to God. It's recognizing he's God and I'm not, you're not. It's recognizing that he's holy, he's good, and I and you don't get to live like we're the center of the universe. It's saying, God, you call the shots, not me. And that, Proverbs says, is where wisdom starts. So, essentially, right there, wisdom is saying, starts with surrender. We usually think about wisdom as knowledge or knowing a lot. But biblical wisdom isn't about how smart you are. It's not about your IQ or how many Bible verses you memorized or how many books you've read. Biblical wisdom begins with surrender. And that's actually hard for us. Because everything in our world screams, you be the boss. Do you, boo-boo, follow your heart. But here's the truth. Your heart will lie to you. Mine does all the time. Jeremiah 17:9 says the heart is deceitful above all things. And that's why Proverbs doesn't say the beginning of wisdom is figuring it all out. It says when we start to fear the Lord, when we say, God, you know best, teach me to trust you more than I trust myself. I got a kind of a small illustration here that I kind of envision, all right? And I'm sure we all... we all live in a time with GPS. But have you ever followed a GPS and got, completely lost? I remember this one time that I was driving to, it was either driving to Houston or on the way back to Mississippi from Houston. I can't remember. But I followed this GPS. It was right around the time when I first moved out there and was coming back home for drill. And I had, at the time, it wasn't like on your phone on Apple CarPlay or anything like that. It was like something you stuck right there on your windshield, and it plugged in, and one of them old school GPSs. And I was following the GPS, and even though this road looked sketchy, I kept thinking, it'll reroute. This is fine, And then ended up, boom, dirt road. No signal. And I'm halfway in the woods somewhere, and that's not even on the map. That may has happened to you. And you're probably wondering, and I was wondering, why did this happen? But when we think of surrender and the fear of God and plug into this, you think, well, when we put our faith in stuff like that, we're trusting the wrong guide. Now, I'm not saying the GPS is going to do it all the time. I'm just trying to give you an illustration of what life is like when we put our trust in the wrong things. And that's what life is like without fear of the Lord. You think you know where you're going, but without God as your compass, you're just wandering. Wisdom doesn't come from trusting yourself. It comes from trusting the one who made you. And I want to roll into point 2 here. Wisdom requires knowing the Holy One. Now let's look at the second part of that verse. Knowledge of the Holy One is insight. We can't have real wisdom if we don't know God. And I don't mean knowing about Him. I mean walking with Him, loving Him, listening to His voice, obeying Him even when it's hard. The more you know Him, the more you start to see the world clearly. Think about it. How can you make wise choices about your life if you don't know the one who created life? You might be good at making money, building a business, or navigating relationships. But without the knowledge of God, you're kind of missing the big picture. Well, let's talk about King Solomon. All right. King Solomon had it all, and he still blew it. The crazy thought about that is this King Solomon, the guy who wrote Proverbs, is known as the wisest man who ever lived. But later in life, he stopped fearing the Lord. He let idols into his home. He married women, a lot of women, who led his heart astray and compromised on what he knew was right. He wrote about wisdom and then lived foolishly. I feel a little convicted right now. I get it. Sometimes I'm King Solomon. So wisdom isn't just about knowing the right thing. It's about living it. It's about walking in humility before God every single day. And if Solomon needed to stay grounded, if King Solomon himself, the author of Proverbs, needed to stay grounded in the fear of the Lord, then so do we. But fearing the Lord isn't a bad thing. There's good news in it. Here's the beautiful twist. Like I said, fearing the Lord isn't bad news. It's good news. It means we're not alone figuring out our life. We don't have to be our own God. We can't do it anyway, but we don't have to be. We get to live under the love and authority of the one who knows us best and loves us most. And let me be real with you. Life is heavy. There are decisions coming your way that no TikTok advice or TED Talk can help you with. You need something stronger, something eternal. You need wisdom, and wisdom begins when you kneel. So, when we talk about application, what does this look like? Let me land this practically, okay? How do we live out Proverbs 9:10? Well, one, we can start our day with God. Before you scroll or stress, spend time with Him. Pray, even if it's messy. I don't know how many times I sit there and I pray, and either I've got nothing to say, like no words come to mind or my lips, or I'm just all over the place or distracted. I'm sitting there talking, and then boom, the next episode of this is coming out, or boom, hey, I need to take care of this today. Sometimes it could be messy. Read His Word, even if it's one verse. Ask Him for wisdom. 2, we can submit our plans to Him. When you or I are facing a big decision, we should ask God, what would honor you most here? 3, surround yourself with wise people. Wisdom isn't a solo sport. Find people who fear the Lord and learn from them. 4, obey even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes the wise path is the hard one. but it's also the one that leads to peace and purpose. So, wrapping this up here, I have a challenge for you. Don't ask God to make you smart. Ask him to make you wise. Don't start with your goals, your opinions, or your preferences. Start with a heart that says, God, I fear you, I trust you, lead me. And that's where wisdom begins. That's where insight starts. And that's how you build a life that actually lasts. So let's be people who fear the Lord and watch what kind of wisdom he pours into our lives. Thank you.